Returned from work only to see my parents, giving my room to my nephew. They said I could stay in. The front door slammed behind me with more force than I'd intended. I stood in the entryway of my childhood home, my laptop bag still slung over my shoulder as chaos unfolded before me. My sister Olivia's high-pitched voice carried from upstairs, accompanied by the thundering steps of her 5-year-old son, Ethan. From the kitchen, my mother called out something about dinner being ready in an hour, but her words barely registered. All I could focus on was my father, standing at the foot of the stairs with a guilty expression that made my stomach drop. "Lucy, you're home early," he said, his eyes not quite meeting mine. I finished debugging the new feature ahead of schedule. I set my bag down slowly. What's going on? Why does it sound like a herd of elephants is trampling through my bedroom? Dad's shoulders slumped slightly. "We need to talk about that. Your sister and Ethan, well, they need a proper space now that they're staying with us." The pieces clicked together in my mind before he finished his sentence. "You gave them my room." It wasn't a question. I could already picture Olivia spreading her designer clothes across my bed, Ethan's toys scattered across the floor I had vacuumed just that weekend. The bedroom I had kept immaculate, painted myself during college breaks, and paid to furnish with my first internship money. "It's just temporary, honey, until they get back on their feet." Greg lost his job, and they couldn't keep up with the rent on their condo. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. "And where am I supposed to sleep?" Dad gestured vaguely toward the living room. "We thought you could use the pull-out couch. It's not so bad. I slept on it when I threw my back out last year." For a moment, I said nothing. At 23, with a computer science degree from Stanford and a job at a promising tech startup, I had chosen to live with my parents to help them financially. Every month, I contributed $1,000 toward their mortgage and bills, nearly a third of my take-home pay. I lived frugally, built my savings, and never complained about still sharing a bathroom with my parents at an age when most of my friends had their own apartments, and now I didn't even have a bedroom. "Lucy!" Olivia appeared at the top of the stairs, her blonde hair perfectly styled despite the crisis she was supposedly experiencing. "Thank God you're home. Can you watch Ethan for an hour? I'm meeting Jess for coffee. I need some adult conversation after being cooped up with a 5-year-old all day." I stared at her, dumbfounded. "You're going out for coffee? Now?" "Just for an hour," she said, already halfway down the stairs. "Mom's making dinner, and I haven't seen Jess in forever." Before I could respond, she kissed my cheek and thrust her iPhone into my hand. "If Greg calls, tell him I'm helping Mom with dinner. He's being super clingy since the layoff." She was gone before I could object, the door closing behind her with a cheerful jingle of her many bracelets. "Uncle Greg lost his job because the economy is bad," piped a small voice from the landing. Ethan stood there, clutching a model airplane I had given him for his birthday. "But Mommy says we'll be okay because Aunt Lucy makes lots of money with computers." I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. Is that what my sister had been telling everyone? That I would bankroll her lifestyle while she went out for coffee? "Dad," I said quietly after Ethan ran back upstairs, "I need to talk to you and Mom tonight." He nodded, looking relieved that I wasn't making a scene. "After dinner, when Ethan's in bed." I picked up my laptop bag and headed for the kitchen, where I could hear my mother humming as she prepared dinner. She was stirring a pot of what smelled like her famous beef stew, the comfort food she always made when family tensions ran high. "Lucy, dear, I didn't hear you come in," she said, wiping her hands on her apron and moving to embrace me. I returned the hug stiffly. "Your sister and Ethan are settling in upstairs. Isn't it nice to have a full house again?" "Mom," I said, pulling away, "did you agree to give my bedroom to Olivia?" She at least had the decency to look uncomfortable. "It's just until they find a new place. Ethan needs stability right now, and your room is bigger than the guest room. Greg is staying in the guest room for now. They're having some marital issues on top of everything else. So you kicked me out of my own room without even asking me first?" "We didn't kick you out, Lucy. This is still your home. We're just rearranging things temporarily. She turned back to the stew, stirring it with more vigor than necessary. Besides, you're always saying you work late. The living room will give you more space to spread out your work things. I almost laughed at the absurdity. The pull-out couch in our living room was ancient, with a thin mattress and springs that poked into your back. The living room was the central thoroughfare of the house, with no privacy and constant foot traffic, and my mother was trying to spin this as some kind of upgrade. I work late at the office, Mom. I come home to sleep in a bed. Well, I think we can all make sacrifices when family needs help, she said, her tone taking on that martyred quality that always shut down further discussion. Your sister has a child to consider. I opened my mouth to argue, then closed it again. This wasn't the time. I needed to cool down before I said something I'd regret. I'll be in the backyard, I said, grabbing my laptop. I have some work to finish. As I stepped out onto the small concrete patio, I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app. My savings account showed a balance that I'd been quietly building for the past year, $89,157.32. Not quite enough for a down payment in our expensive Bay Area suburb, but getting closer every month. I'd been living like a college student despite my professional salary, eating ramen when I worked late, and declining invitations to expensive outings with coworkers. What had Olivia been doing during those same years? Having lavish destination weddings, 2 so far, buying designer clothes, leasing luxury cars, and taking Instagram-worthy vacations with Greg, who worked sporadically at best, and every few months like clockwork. Lucy, can I borrow $500 just until payday? The money never came back, and eventually I stopped expecting it to. I opened my text messages and scrolled to my conversation with Marcus, my closest friend from college and now a real estate agent in the area. Remember that apartment complex you showed me last month? Is Unit 12B still available? 3 dots appeared immediately. Still available. Want to see it again tomorrow, 6 p.m. after you get off work? I took a deep breath and typed back, yes, and bring the rental application. Just as I hit send, my phone buzzed with a notification. It was from my bank, another Venmo request from Olivia for $75 with the message, "Coffee with Jess, thanks. Sis," I declined the request and put my phone away. From inside the house, I could hear Ethan's footsteps racing across what used to be my bedroom floor, followed by the distinct sound of something heavy falling over. Probably my bookshelf. Dinner. That night was excruciating. Olivia dominated the conversation, detailing the injustice of Greg's layoff. They kept that brown-noser Jeff instead, even though Greg had seniority, while simultaneously scrolling through her phone and showing my mother pictures of a $900 stroller she was considering for the new baby. New baby? I echoed, nearly choking on my water. You're pregnant? Oh. Olivia looked up, beaming. I was going to announce it properly this weekend, but yes, Ethan's going to be a big brother in about 7 months. My parents erupted in excitement. My mother nearly in tears as she embraced Olivia. My father clapped his hands and declared we needed champagne to celebrate, though he settled for the cheap Prosecco that had been in the refrigerator since New Year's. So that's why you needed my room, I said quietly, connecting the dots. This isn't temporary at all, is it? A momentary hush fell over the table. My mother recovered first. Lucy, don't be selfish. Your sister is giving us another grandchild. And with Greg between jobs, they need family support right now. I give this family support, I said, my voice steady despite the anger bubbling beneath the surface. Every month, I contribute $1,000 to this household. I buy groceries, I fix things when they break. I'm not being selfish, I'm asking for basic respect. Greg, who had been uncharacteristically quiet, cleared his throat. Look, Lucy, we appreciate everything you do, but this is different. We're talking about a child, 2 children now. And what about my life, my needs? I looked around the table, meeting each of their eyes. I've put my own plans on hold to help out, and in return, I get kicked out of my room without even a conversation? It's Just a room, Lucy, Olivia said dismissively. Why are you making such a big deal about it? You're never even home anyway. I'm making a big deal because this is symptomatic of how this family treats me, I replied, pushing back from the table. And for the record, I am home. Every night, working to pay my share, and apparently yours too. I stood up, no longer hungry. I need some air. As I walked out to the driveway, I could hear my mother's disappointed sigh and Olivia's theatrical whisper. She's always been so dramatic. I got into my car, a practical 5-year-old Honda Civic that I'd bought used and paid off within 2 years, and just sat there for a moment, hands gripping the steering wheel. The dashboard clock read 7:42 p.m. The evening stretched ahead. Of me, empty and uninviting. I couldn't face going back inside to the pull-out couch in the living room, where I'd have no privacy and would likely be woken at dawn by Ethan's cartoons. I started the car and pulled out of the driveway with no destination in mind. I just drove, making random turns through the familiar streets of my neighborhood, past the elementary school I'd attended, past the park where I'd learned to ride a bike, past the library where I'd spent countless hours teaching myself to code, when my high school didn't offer computer science classes. Eventually, I found myself parked outside a modest apartment complex, the one Marcus had shown me a month ago when I'd first started to consider moving out. It wasn't fancy, but it was clean and quiet, with a small gym and in-unit laundry. Unit 12B had been vacant then, a one-bedroom with a decent-sized living room that could double as a home office. I pulled out my phone and looked at my messages with Marcus again. Tomorrow at 6 p.m., I'd see the apartment. Tomorrow, I'd make a decision about my future. For now, though, I had to go home and face my family. When I returned, the house was quiet, except for the sound of the television in the living room. Ethan was asleep on the pull-out couch, my bed, surrounded by stuffed animals and action figures. Olivia sat beside him, scrolling through her phone. "Oh, good, you're back," she said without looking up. "Ethan wanted to sleep out here tonight. He's still adjusting to the new house. You don't mind sleeping on the floor in Mom's craft room, do you? Just for tonight?" I stood there, keys still in hand, and felt something snap inside me. Not in a violent way, but in the way a rope breaks after bearing too much weight for too long. A clean, decisive break. "No," I said simply. Olivia looked up, eyebrows raised. "No?" "No, I don't mind," I clarified, my voice calm, "because I won't be sleeping there. I'm going to a hotel tonight, and tomorrow I'm looking at apartments." She blinked, genuine surprise crossing her face. "You're moving out? Just because of a bedroom?" "It's not about the bedroom, Olivia. It's about respect." She rolled her eyes. "Come on, Lucy. Don't be so sensitive. It's not like you're paying rent here." "I pay $1,000 a month to live here," I said flatly. This stopped her short. "What? Since when?" "Since I moved back after graduation, almost 2 years now." "But why would Mom and Dad charge you rent? That's crazy." I stared at her, momentarily, speechless. "They don't charge me. I contribute voluntarily because they're struggling financially. Dad's pension doesn't cover everything, especially after they helped pay for your second wedding." Olivia had the grace to look slightly embarrassed, but recovered quickly. "Well, that's your choice. No one asked you to do that." "Actually, Mom did. The month after your wedding, when they couldn't make the mortgage payment." I turned to go upstairs, intending to pack an overnight bag, but Olivia's voice stopped me. "So now you're holding it over our heads? Real charitable of you, Lucy." Her tone had turned nasty. "You always have to be the perfect daughter, don't you? The successful one, the responsible one, making the rest of us look bad." I turned back slowly. "I've never tried to make anyone look bad, Olivia. I've just tried to do the right thing. And right now, the right thing for me is to find my own place." I walked upstairs, past the door of what used to be my bedroom, now festooned with Ethan's superhero posters, and into the small craft room that doubled as storage space. True to form, no one had prepared it for me. Boxes of Christmas decorations and old photo albums covered most of the floor space. There was barely room for the yoga mat I'd have to use as a makeshift bed. I grabbed a few essentials and stuffed them into a duffel bag. As I was zipping it closed, my mother appeared in the doorway, arms crossed defensively. "Olivia says you're leaving," she said, her voice tight with disapproval. "Just for tonight. I'm going to a hotel where I can get some actual sleep. You're overreacting, Lucy. Families make sacrifices for each other. When you were little, we gave up vacations to pay for your computer camp." I sighed, too tired to argue. "I know you made sacrifices for me, Mom, and I've been trying to pay that back. But right now, I need some space to think." She softened slightly. "If this is about your room, maybe we can work something out. Greg could sleep on the couch instead." "It's not just about the room," I said, slinging the duffel over my shoulder. "It's about how decisions are made in this house. It's about feeling valued and respected." "Of course we value you," she protested. "We're so proud of your job and how responsible you are. Being valued isn't just about being useful, Mom. It's about having my needs considered too." I moved past her into the hallway, where my father now stood, looking uncomfortable. "Lucy, don't leave like this," he said quietly. "Let's talk about it." "We can talk tomorrow," I promised. "I just need one night of decent sleep to clear my head." As I descended the stairs, Olivia called from the living room. "If you're really moving out, I hope you'll still help Mom and Dad with the bills. They're going to need it even more with us staying here." I paused at the bottom of the stairs, looking at my sister, still beautiful, still entitled, still certain that her needs trumped everyone else's. "I'll always help our parents," I said. "But I'm done enabling you, Olivia." She gasped as if I'd slapped her. "Enabling me? What is that supposed to mean?" "It means you're 30 years old with a child and another on the way, and you still expect everyone else to solve your problems." I adjusted the strap of my duffel bag. "Maybe it's time you figured some things out on your own." I left before she could respond, closing the front door quietly behind me. The hotel room was nothing special, just a standard chain hotel a few miles from my parents' house. But as I lay on the queen-sized bed, staring at the ceiling, I felt a strange mixture of guilt and liberation. I'd never stood up to my family like that before. I'd always been the peacekeeper, the problem solver, the one who accommodated everyone else's needs. My phone buzzed repeatedly with texts from my mother. "We're worried about you. Please come home." And increasingly angry messages from Olivia. "Way to abandon your family when we need you most. Real mature." I silenced my phone and opened my laptop instead, logging into my work email. There was a message from my boss about the feature I'd completed that day, praising my efficiency and asking if I'd be interested in taking on a more substantial project, one that would mean a significant promotion if successful. I typed back, a quick, absolutely interested, before switching over to my personal email. There, buried under newsletters and shopping promotions, was an email I'd been avoiding for weeks. The subject line read, "Your app submission, Budget Buddy, offer." Enclosed. 6 months ago, I'd developed a simple budgeting app as a side project, something to help me track my own expenses and savings goals. On a whim, I'd submitted it to a tech incubator that specialized in financial technology. I hadn't expected anything to come of it. The app was basic, functional but not flashy, designed for practical use rather than to impress investors, but they'd liked it. Enough to offer $500,000 for it. I'd been sitting on the offer, uncertain whether to accept. The money would be life-changing, enough for a hefty down payment on a house in almost any neighborhood, or to start my own company, or simply to invest, and continue working my current job without financial stress. Taking the offer would mean leaving my current position to work with the incubator for at least a year, helping them scale and improve the app. It was an exciting opportunity, but I'd hesitated, knowing that if I left my stable job, I might not be able to help my parents as consistently. Now sitting in a hotel room with my life in flux, the decision seemed suddenly clear. I clicked reply and typed, "I'd like to accept your offer. Can we meet next week to discuss next steps?" After hitting send, I closed my laptop and lay back on the bed, feeling as though a weight had been lifted. Whatever happened with my family, I would be okay. For the first time in years, I was putting myself first, and it felt right. The next morning, I woke early, showered, and dressed for work. On my way out, I checked my email to find the incubator had already responded, suggesting a meeting on Friday afternoon. I confirmed and headed to the office with a strange new energy propelling me forward. My workday passed in a blur of meetings and coding, and before I knew it, it was time to meet Marcus at the apartment. As I pulled into the complex parking lot, I felt a flutter of anxiety. This was really happening. Marcus was waiting outside, his easy smile a welcome sight after the tension of the past 24 hours. Lucy Chen, about to fly the nest, he greeted me, giving me a quick hug. "Ready to see your potential new home again?" I nodded, following him up the exterior stairs to the second floor. Unit 12B looked exactly as I remembered. An open-concept living and dining area, a small but functional kitchen, a bedroom with enough space for a queen bed and a desk, and a bathroom with a tub deep enough to actually soak in. It's still within your budget, Marcus was saying as I ran my hand along the kitchen counter. And the landlord is offering a 2-year lease with only a 2% increase in the second year, which is practically unheard of in this market. "I'll take it," I said, surprising even myself with the decisiveness in my voice. Marcus raised his eyebrows. "Don't you want to think about it overnight? Or check with your parents?" "I've been thinking about it for months," I replied. "And I'm an adult. I don't need to check with my parents." He grinned and pulled the rental application from his briefcase. "That's my girl. Let's get you officially applied then. With your credit score and income, it should be approved by tomorrow." I filled out the application, my phone rang. It was my father. I hesitated, then answered. "Lucy, where are you? Your mother's made dinner, and we need to talk." I took a deep breath. "I'm looking at an apartment, Dad. I'll be home in about an hour." There was a long pause. "An apartment? You're really serious about moving out?" "Yes, I am. We can talk about it when I get home." After hanging up, I turned back to the application, filling in my employment details and bank account information. Marcus watched me with a thoughtful expression. "Family stuff?" he asked gently. I nodded, not trusting myself to explain without getting emotional. "You don't have to justify your decisions to anyone, Lucy," he said, putting a comforting hand on my shoulder. "Even family. Sometimes, especially family." I smiled gratefully and handed him the completed application. "Thanks, Marcus, for everything." When I arrived home, the atmosphere was tense. My parents sat at the dining table with Olivia beside them. Greg was noticeably absent, as was Ethan. "Greg took Ethan for ice cream," Olivia explained when she saw me looking around. "We thought it would be better to talk without distractions." I set my laptop bag down and took a seat across from them, feeling like I was facing a tribunal. "Lucy," my father began, his tone serious, "we've been talking about the situation, and we want you to know that we value your presence in this house. If having your own space is important to you, we can look at converting part of the garage into a bedroom." "The garage," I repeated flatly. "It would be temporary," my mother added quickly. "Just until Olivia and Greg get back on their feet. We could put in a window and some carpet." "I appreciate the offer," I said, cutting her off. "But I've already applied for an apartment. If all goes well, I can move in next weekend." The table fell silent. My mother's eyes welled with tears, while my father looked stunned. Olivia, however, seemed calculating, as if reassessing her strategy. "Lucy," she said, her voice gentle in a way that immediately made me suspicious. I know we haven't always seen eye to eye, but we're family. Ethan adores you, and with the new baby coming, don't you want to be part of their daily lives? I'll always be part of their lives, I replied evenly. But I need my own space. What about Mom and Dad? She pressed. If you move out, who will help them with the mortgage? And there it was, the real concern. Not my absence, but my money. I'll continue to help them financially, I said, looking directly at my parents. That won't change. My father cleared his throat. Lucy, while we appreciate your help, we don't want you to feel obligated. If you're moving out to gain independence, that should include financial independence too. I stared at him, trying to understand what he was saying. Are you telling me to stop helping with the mortgage? What your father means, my mother interjected, is that if you're not living here, you shouldn't have to pay for the household expenses. That money should go toward your new rent. But you need that money, I said slowly. You've told me many times that you couldn't make ends meet without my contribution. My parents exchanged uncomfortable glances. Olivia jumped in with forced cheerfulness. Well, now that we're moving in, we can help. Greg's already got some promising job leads, and once the baby comes, I can start my Etsy shop again. I almost laughed. Olivia's Etsy shop, selling overpriced, poorly constructed dream catchers, had never made more than a few $100s, most of which she'd spent on materials. So let me get this straight, I said, trying to keep the incredulity out of my voice. Yesterday, you needed my room because you were in financial crisis. Today, you're financially stable enough to contribute to the household expenses? People's situations change, Olivia said defensively. And we're family. We adapt and support each other. Except when it comes to respecting my space and my boundaries, I pointed out. My mother sighed dramatically. Lucy, why are you being so difficult about this? We're trying to find a solution that works for everyone. No, you're trying to find a solution that works for everyone except me, I corrected her. First you want me in the garage, and now you're suggesting I stop helping financially, which frankly sounds like an attempt to make moving out so expensive that I'll change my mind. My father looked pained. That's not what we're saying, Lucy. Then what are you saying, Dad? Because from where I'm sitting, it sounds like you want both my room and my money. The conversation deteriorated from there. My mother cried, Olivia, accused me of being selfish, and my father tried unsuccessfully to mediate. Eventually, I stood up. I'm going to get some of my things from my old room, I said, exhausted by the circular argument. I'll be staying at a hotel again tonight. You're choosing a hotel over your family? My mother asked tearfully. I'm choosing a good night's sleep and some peace, I replied. We can talk again when everyone's calmer. Upstairs, I found my old room transformed. My furniture remained, but my personal items had been boxed up and stacked in the corner. Olivia's clothes filled my closet, and Ethan's toys covered the floor. It no longer felt like my space at all. I grabbed the boxes with my personal belongings and carried them downstairs, where my family still sat at the dining table. Their expressions, a mixture of hurt and indignation. I'll come back for the furniture once I have a place to put it, I said, setting the boxes by the door. Lucy, my father said, his voice cracking slightly. Please don't leave like this. Let's keep talking. I softened at the genuine distress in his eyes. I'm not cutting off contact, Dad. I just need some space to think clearly. We've all said things in anger that we might regret. As if on cue, the front door burst open, and Ethan ran in, his face sticky with ice cream. Greg followed, looking uncomfortable when he saw the boxes by the door. Aunt Lucy, are you going on a trip? Ethan asked, bouncing on his toes. I knelt down to his level. Sort of. I'm going to have my own place soon. His little face fell. But who will help me with my robot drawings? I'll still see you all the time, I promised, ruffling his hair. And we can have special days where you come to visit me. How does that sound? He considered this seriously. Can I bring my Legos? Absolutely. Okay then. He hugged me briefly before racing off to show his mother the toy car Greg had bought him. Greg hung back, looking awkward. Lucy, I just want to say I appreciate everything you've done for your sister and Ethan, and I'm sorry about the room situation. It wasn't my idea. I believed him. Greg had always been weak-willed, happy to go along with whatever Olivia wanted, but never malicious. Thanks, Greg. I hope you find a job soon. He nodded, glancing toward the dining room where Olivia was now fussing over Ethan. Me too. For what it's worth, I think you're making the right decision. Everyone needs their own space. I grabbed my boxes and headed for the door. As I loaded them into my car, I could feel my family watching from the window. Part of me felt like I was abandoning ship, leaving them to fend for themselves. But a stronger part knew that this was necessary, for them as much as for me. Sometimes the most caring thing you can do is step back and let people solve their own problems. The next day, I received the approval for the apartment. I could move in as early as the following Monday, just 4 days away. I signed the lease electronically and paid the security deposit, feeling a mixture of excitement and trepidation. This was really happening. At work, I received another email from the tech incubator confirming our meeting for Friday afternoon. Everything was moving quickly now, changes cascading one after another like dominoes falling. I spent the next 3 nights at the hotel, returning to my parents' house only to collect more of my belongings during the day when everyone was out. My mother left tearful voicemails that I couldn't bring myself to return yet. My father texted daily, his messages becoming increasingly worried. Olivia alternated between angry texts accusing me of abandoning the family and saccharine messages about how much Ethan missed me. On Friday morning, I finally called my father. "Lucy," he answered immediately, relief evident in his voice. "Are you okay? We've been so worried." "I'm fine, Dad. I've been busy getting ready to move. I signed a lease on an apartment and I'm moving in on Monday." There was a long pause. "I see. That's very quick." "I need a fresh start," I said simply. "Your mother is very upset," he said, his tone gentle but reproachful. "She thinks you're punishing us." "I'm not punishing anyone. I'm making a healthy choice for myself." He sighed heavily. "I understand that. But family is about compromise, Lucy. Sometimes we have to put others' needs before our own." "I've been doing that for years, Dad. It's time for me to prioritize my own needs for a while." We talked for a few more minutes, agreeing that I would come over for dinner on Sunday to say a proper goodbye. It wasn't ideal, but it was a start toward healing the rift. That afternoon, I met with the representatives from the tech incubator. 3 people in their 30s sat across from me in a sleek conference room, all wearing the casual but expensive attire that signified successful tech entrepreneurs. "Lucy, we're thrilled you've decided to accept our offer," said Naomi, the lead investor. Budget Buddy fills a real need in the market, and with our resources behind it, we believe it could become a standard financial tool for young professionals. We spent the next hour discussing their vision for scaling the app, the technical improvements they wanted to make, and my role in the process. By the end of the meeting, I had signed the preliminary acquisition agreement and was holding a check for the first installment of the payment, $250,000. The second half will be transferred once the integration period is complete, approximately 6 months from now, Naomi explained. "In the meantime, we'd like you to start working with our team as soon as possible. How does 2 weeks from Monday sound?" I thought about my current job, the promotion opportunity my boss had mentioned, and the stability it represented. Then I thought about the apartment I'd just leased, the freedom it symbolized, and the chance to build something of my own. 2 weeks from Monday works perfectly," I said, shaking her hand. As I left the meeting, I felt as though I was walking on air. The bank check in my purse represented more money than I'd ever seen at once, enough to secure my financial future. Regardless of what happened with my family, I drove straight to the bank, deposited the check, and then spent the rest of the afternoon shopping for essentials for my new apartment. Bed, couch, kitchen table, desk. Practical pieces that would make the space functional and comfortable. I arranged for everything to be delivered on Monday afternoon, after I got the keys. On Sunday evening, I returned to my parents' house for dinner as promised. The atmosphere was strained but civil. Olivia made an effort to be pleasant, asking about my new apartment and even offering to help me decorate. My mother was quieter than usual, her eyes still red-rimmed from crying, but she had prepared all my favorite foods, a peace offering of sorts. After dinner, when Ethan was occupied with a movie, the 4 adults sat in the living room for what felt like a family meeting. "Lucy," my father began carefully, "we've been talking about the financial situation, and we want to be transparent with you. Without your monthly contribution, we're going to struggle to make the mortgage payment." I nodded, having expected this. "I know. That's why I plan to continue helping out for the next few months, until you can adjust your budget or find additional income." Relief crossed my parents' faces, but Olivia looked uncomfortable. "About that," she said, fidgeting with her wedding ring. "Greg and I were talking, and we think we should contribute to the household expenses too. Not right away, of course, since Greg is still job hunting, but eventually." "That's good to hear," I said neutrally. "The thing is," she continued, not meeting my eyes. "Even with both of us contributing, it might not be enough. Mom and Dad have some credit card debt we didn't know about, and with the new baby coming..." I could see where this was heading. "How much are you hoping I'll continue to contribute, and for how long?" My mother jumped in. "We're not expecting anything, sweetheart. Whatever you can afford to give for as long as you're comfortable. No, you'll have your own expenses now." I took a deep breath, considering my next words carefully. I hadn't planned to tell them about the app sale yet, but perhaps it was time for complete honesty. "I have some news," I said slowly. "I've sold an app I developed to a tech incubator. The deal was finalized on Friday." My parents looked confused, while Olivia leaned forward with sudden interest. "What kind of app?" my father asked. "A budgeting tool called Budget Buddy. I created it as a side project last year." "That's wonderful, honey," my mother said, still looking bewildered. "Is it a good deal?" I nodded. $500,000, plus a job with the incubator for at least a year. There was a moment of stunned silence, then everyone started talking at once. My father was asking about the details of the deal. My mother was expressing amazement that I'd kept such a big project secret, and Olivia, predictably, was focused on the money. $500,000, she repeated, her eyes wide. "Lucy, that's incredible. You're set for life." "Not for life," I corrected her, "but it's a solid foundation for my future." "This calls for a celebration," my father declared, heading for the liquor cabinet. "I think I still have that bottle of champagne. From New Year's," as he poured drinks for everyone, I could see the wheels turning in Olivia's head. Before she could speak, I addressed what I knew was coming. "I plan to invest most of the money," I said firmly. "I'll continue helping Mom and Dad with $1,000 a month for the next year, which should give everyone time to adjust to the new situation." Olivia's face fell slightly, but she recovered quickly. "That's so generous of you, Lucy. And, if you wanted to set up a college fund for Ethan and the new baby, that would be amazing too." I had to admire her persistence. "I'll think about it," I said noncommittally. My mother, perhaps sensing the tension, quickly changed the subject to my new apartment and the furniture I'd bought. The rest of the evening passed pleasantly enough, with everyone making an effort to focus on the positive aspects of the changes happening in our lives. As I was leaving, my father walked me to my car. "I'm proud of you, Lucy," he said, hugging me tightly. "Not just for the app, though that's incredible, but for standing up for yourself. It couldn't have been easy." I hugged him back, feeling a lump in my throat. "It wasn't, but it was necessary. I know," he admitted. "We've relied on you too much, taken you for granted. I'm sorry for that." "I'm not abandoning you, Dad," I assured him. "I'm just establishing healthier boundaries." He nodded, his eyes suspiciously bright in the porch light. Your mother and I will be okay. Don't worry about us too much. And Olivia? I couldn't help asking. He sighed. Your sister needs to grow up. Maybe this will be the push she needs. I wasn't so sure, but I appreciated his optimism. I hope so. As I drove away, I glanced in the rearview mirror to see my father still standing in the driveway, watching me go. For the first time since this whole situation began, I felt a sense of peace. The road ahead wouldn't be easy. Family dynamics never were, but I was finally moving in the right direction. Monday morning dawned bright and clear, a perfect day for new beginnings. I checked out of the hotel, loaded my few belongings into my car, and drove to the apartment complex. Marcus was waiting for me in the leasing office, keys in hand. Ready for this? He asked with a grin. More than ready, I replied, accepting the keys. We walked together to Unit 12B, now officially my new home. The empty apartment echoed with possibility as I stepped inside. Sunlight streamed through the windows, illuminating the blank canvas that awaited me. Furniture delivery is scheduled for this afternoon, I told Marcus as we did a final walkthrough. And I've arranged for internet installation tomorrow. Look at you, all organized, he teased. You're going to be just fine, Lucy Chen. After he left, I stood in the center of the empty living room, keys clutched in my hand, and took a deep breath. For the first time in years, I didn't have to consider anyone else's needs or expectations. This space was mine alone. To decorate, to organize, to exist in however I chose. My phone buzzed with a text from Olivia. Hope moving day is going well. Ethan wants to know when he can visit his cool aunt's new place. Also, I had a great idea about that college fund we discussed. I smiled and put the phone away without responding. Some things would never change, but my response to them could, and had. The furniture was delivered that afternoon, and I spent the evening arranging everything just so. By midnight, exhausted but satisfied, I crawled into my new bed in my new bedroom in my new life. As I drifted off to sleep, I thought about the journey that had brought me here, a bedroom given away without my consent, a pull-out couch offered as consolation, a garage suggested as compromise. All of it stemming from a lifetime of being the responsible one, the dependable one, the one who would always sacrifice her own needs for others, but not anymore. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself and for others is to say no, to establish boundaries, to expect respect. I had returned from work only to see my parents giving my room to my nephew. They said I could stay in the living room. Well, I'll stay in my own apartment then, I had said. They had laughed, but they weren't laughing anymore, and neither was I. For the first time in years, I was smiling, a genuine smile that reached all the way to my heart.